Hello, thanks for checking out this video. My name is Chris, and I'm guessing because you clicked on this channel you're interested in ponds. Well, you've come to the right place. I have well over 100 videos here on this channel all about koi ponds, waterfalls, water gardens, pond filtration, aquatic plants, fish, maintenance, care, the whole bit. So if you are into this kind of stuff, please subscribe to the channel, take some time and look around. There's a ton of videos here for you guys. I've been building koi ponds professionally for over 25 years now, and I put together this channel basically to help share with you what I've learned, things I've experienced, some little tips, some tricks, the whole bit. So again, use the playlists here on this channel because I have different topics kind of broken down with videos, related to that topic. So hopefully it can make you find things a little bit easier and navigate your way around. But please subscribe to the channel, take some time, check out all the videos. I'd really appreciate the support. So today's video, we're going to jump right into it here. We're going to take things outside of the pond a little bit and talk about some of the landscaping outside the pond. Not so much specific details on what you should or should not do with different plants, but more or less just what to consider and things to think about when you are starting to design your landscape around the pond, okay? So first of all, I want to start off with hardscapes. Things like, patios, gazebos, sidewalks, pergolas, okay? Hardscapes, things that are permanent structures around your pond. Now these things should be thought of and thought out before building your pond so that you can build your pond according to their structure, their placement, and their size and shape as well. Okay, if you want to put a patio next to your pond for just a nice little table set, table and chairs to sit and relax, well, how big are you going to make that? Okay, if it's say a little gazebo that's going next to your pond, how big is that? Because you might want to wrap the pond around it. Have that marked out, know exactly where that's going to go. You might want to put that in place first and then dig your pond up right to it so that it surrounds a certain portion of it. Same thing with the patio, right? Is the patio going to be off the pond, or is it going to be right up in the pond? Do you want the patio to be surrounded by, halfway with water? All right, stuff like this. So that all has to be thought out before you start building your pond. Now, if you already have a pond and you want to add a patio to it, or you want to add a gazebo or something to it, absolutely, you can do that. But you're kind of restricted by what you already have. Whereas if you are planning ahead with the hardscapes first, like I want to do my patio in this area here and mark that out, then you can build the pond bang right to it so that it really just fits perfectly, okay? So I like to think of that first and foremost. Any kind of hardscapes, let's know where that gazebo is going to sit exactly. Let's know where that patio is going to be, what shape it, the outline of it, where it's going to be, and then let's design our pond to it. Now when it comes to patios, I have had the question quite often of what should I do first? Should I put my patio in first and then do the pond, or should I put the pond in first and then build the patio to it? So my question is always quite simple. Do you want the patio to go to the pond, directly right up to the pond, or do you want the pond off of the patio a little bit? So there's a difference, all right? This picture I'm showing you behind me here is a pond that was built after the patio, and as you can see, I basically laid all of my stonework on the outside of the pond on top of the paver patio, all right? This way it just blends right together. If you are trying to build a pond first and then bring a patio right up to it to look like this, it's going to be extremely difficult, because every rock and boulder around the outside of this pond is a little different size and shape, right? It's a very jagged, rough edge. To bring your pavers up to it and then have to cut every little paver to fit that properly is really, really difficult and time consuming. So I would rather just bring my patio in, put my rocks right up on top of it, and we're connected, okay? Now, if you are putting in a patio and you want your pond slightly off of the patio, which is an acceptable thing too, okay? So maybe you want to keep the pond, a foot and a half off the patio. Maybe you want room between your patio and your pond, the rock work, to plant flowers. Or maybe, just want it clean, mulch and gravel or something, a separation. Well, then it's fine. And at that point, it really doesn't matter whether you put your patio in first or your pond. It can be done either way, all right? But typically, like I said, if you want to bring the pond right into the patio, you want to walk up, whether it's pavers or bluestone or whatever kind of aggregate you're using as a patio, and you want to walk right from that and stand right at your pond. I would say put the patio in first and then bring the pond up over it and connect to it. It's just simply easier than cutting all those little pavers and stones to fit the exact little shape all around the pond. It's almost impossible. So that's my advice with that. Now, once it comes to actually planting and landscaping and thinking about all the, what you want the surroundings of your pond to look like, it's a little bit more complicated, all right? Typically, I like to say, build your pond first. Once your pond is built, stand back, look at it, look at the area, and start to think about what would look nice where. Now, I have built some ponds in the past where I have transplanted some really nice, specimen, like a Japanese lace leaf maple that I know we were going to use there. Or maybe the homeowner says to me, hey, I want to put a really nice, ornamental tree here in this corner. Okay, well that's great. All right, we need to know that. So when it comes to building my pond, I'm going to build it in such a way that can accommodate that specimen piece, that Japanese maple, that flowering shrub, whatever it may be. Maybe on one side of the pond, we want to put a divider between, say, the pond and, I don't know, a pool patio or something, okay? Maybe doing like a low hedge, like a low boxwood hedge or something on this side. Okay, so we need to know that, all right? And plan the pond, accordingly. Leave enough space between the pond and that pool patio to put that boxwood hedge in. So little things like that we need to know. But for the most part, I would say build your pond. Once the pond is done, let's stand back and look at it, and look at it from different angles. Think about, if you have a patio or you're just putting a bench out here where you're going to sit there and look at that pond from that angle and say, oh, something nice back here behind the waterfall would go good. Maybe something over here, maybe some flowers here, okay? And do that. I like doing that just because for me it's just simply a little more natural than to be, sit down with a piece of paper before I build the pond and draw a pond and draw little plants around it. I like to design right on site, okay? And it doesn't have to be complicated, right? It really doesn't have to be complicated. Natural landscapes are just that. Things grow naturally in certain spots, okay? They're not perfectly placed and 2 feet apart spacing. No, they're kind of staggered around, mixed in, things are mixed around. So be creative. The only thing I want to say about that is leave space for things to grow. Which leads me to my next topic, okay? The next little point in this whole video. When planting your landscape, there's two ways to look at it. I call it planting for now or planting for later. All right, now what I mean by that is when you buy plants for your pond, you go to your local garden center, nursery, you're going to buy plants that typically are not mature plants, right? You know, you buy, just for an example, something simple like an azalea bush, okay? A little azalea. Well, they're going to come in a little container, and it's, you know, probably this big, all right? But it doesn't stay that big, right? They can grow 5-6 feet round. Accommodate that, make room knowing that it's going to plant, the plant's going to grow. So what I mean by planting for now or planting for later, okay? Well, things are going to grow. So if you plant everything now and stuff things together and buy a whole bunch of stuff, or you know, maybe you know, right on the corner of this pond you're going to put a beautiful, you know, blue spruce. Okay, maybe it's, you know, 6, 7 feet, 8 feet tall right now. Beautiful spruce, fits there, looks beautiful right now. Now, okay, later, 5 years, 10 years down the road or more, that thing's going to get huge. You're not going to keep it that big. All right, now it's going to be overgrown and overgrow its area and grow the pond. All right, so really keep that in mind. Here, you know, like now is here for right now. Tomorrow or later is here for a long time, God willing, okay? So I don't see planting things for today being as beneficial as planting things for tomorrow, okay, or later, because things are going to change a lot. There's a lot of times when I have gone to houses, like a brand new house, people just moved in, they want a pond. Awesome, right? And I happened to notice their landscaping, okay? Brand new house was just built, landscaping was just done, you know, a year ago, and, you know, I'm walking up to the front door to ring the doorbell, and I noticed so many times the plants that are planted along the foundation of the house are gonna grow huge, okay? They look beautiful right now, right? All sculpted and cut and trimmed, and they look beautiful, you know, but having a Norway spruce, you know, 6 feet away from your front door or your patio, your front, you know, porch, it ain't gonna work. That tree's gonna grow 60 feet, all right? You know, that nice flowering plum that's 10 foot off your corner of your house by your garage, well, you know, in a few years, that thing's going to be growing through the windows of your garage, all right? So while it looks nice now, down the road, not so good, okay? So really kind of keep that in mind. You know, when buying your plants and shrubs, make sure that you are allowing for enough space. When you buy a tree, a plant, a shrub, a flower, whatever, at the garden centers, they usually come with little tags, and they will tell you how big they will grow. Sometimes whether they take sun or shade, sometimes how much water they need, how much maybe their growth rate, slow or fast. Okay, so these are all things that you really need to look at when planting these things, because, you know, that beautiful holly may look really nice right here on the corner of your waterfall right now. But in 5 to 10 years, you're not going to see your waterfall because that holly is going to be tremendous, okay? So keep that in mind. You know, what are we planting for, now or tomorrow, okay? So that's a big point. Also, you know, when picking landscape plants, try to layer things according to size, right? It sounds stupid, but it's simple, but, you know, it's something you should really think about, okay? In other words, next to your pond, stay small, right? As you move further back and away from your pond, you can get bigger, Okay, so it's kind of layering. Now, that's not to say that you can't keep a bunch of small flowers and stuff right here around the pond, and then right next to that, next to the pond, put something larger to break up the size. Yes, absolutely, you can do that. All right, but just in general, closer to the pond, stay smaller, further away from the pond, get bigger. All right, and just flat out easy stupid example is, you know, don't plant a 30-foot tree 3 feet from the pond, right? Okay, keep that tree 20 feet back in the background. Okay, now if you are putting your pond out in your lawn and you know you have all grass around it, that's great, fine. Think about this though. Make sure around the edge of your pond, between the rock of your pond and your grass, cut an edge. Leave a straight border. Don't just have the grass come in and out of the rocks and just bring that grass right to the rocks. My reasoning for that is it's very difficult to cut the grass in between all your rocks and boulders of the pond. And what tends to happen is you're going to need a weed whacker. And when you do weed whack everything, right, all that stuff flies out and goes all over the pond. If you keep, even if it's 6 inches, all right, I like to keep like a foot distance and just use some gravel or some mulch between the rocks of the pond and your grass, but cut a nice edge around it. It keeps it much clean, neater. It's easier to mow your lawn without blowing all the grass clippings and stuff into the pond itself, and it just makes for, you know, a cleaner more controlled area around your pond. Okay, we've looked at basically hardscapes, planning for them. We've looked at, you know, having specimen plants and designing the pond accordingly to maybe highlight that specimen plant. We've talked about planting for tomorrow and not so much today. We talked about layering plants a little bit, okay? And, you know, as far as like, keep in mind like grasses, okay? People love grasses around the pond. Typically when you buy a grass, it comes in a little container. And it's, you know, I mean, they may be 2-3 feet tall, whatever, okay? But many of these grasses, like maiden grasses and things, grow quite large. And each year, that clump gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So when planting a grass, the first year or two, it might not look like very much, right? It's going to look like this little grass growing up here. But in a few years, that grass can be 6 feet tall and 3 foot round, all right? So keep that in mind as well. Also, there are some grasses that are very invasive. So it means you can plant, you know, this little grass over here. Like there's a blue-gray grass that grows about 2 feet tall that just explodes and takes over everything. Keep that in mind, okay? If you're buying a plant from a nursery, make sure you're talking to somebody who is familiar with them and knowledgeable about it, and buy the grasses that stay clumping, okay, in a clump, and don't spread out and spread runners out and will take over everything, because once you have that, I'm telling you, it's really, really hard to get rid of, okay? So that's that. Now, yeah, so basically, you know, I'm trying to give you some ideas here. You can go with a natural look, okay? You can go with a more formal look. So what's the difference? Natural is going to be more mixed up colors, varieties, shapes, sizes, okay? A blending of all different things together. More formal is going to be more sculptured. Perhaps like a trimmed cut hedge, right? Shaped rounded bushes and things, more formal design rather than just a wild looking thing, okay? And I'm going to be doing a bunch of other videos here in the near future about more landscaping stuff around your pond, things like hummingbird, butterfly gardens incorporated into a pond landscape, you know, attracting wildlife, That way. I do have another video here on my channel about attracting wildlife to your pond, which I think is really pretty cool, because whether you are actually trying to attract wildlife or you just build a pond, the wildlife's going to come. Okay, so it's actually pretty cool. There's a lot of neat things that you can sit and observe and watch, and how it all becomes part of an ecosystem in your backyard. Very neat stuff. So you can check out that video here as well. But anyway, I hope that kind of gave you some ideas. The other thing, one thing too before I leave, is I just want to talk briefly about this. I'll get into this in another video on whether or not to put your your pond out in the sun or in shade. But I'll talk briefly here as well about it, and that's the fact of how close can I get my pond to like a big, large existing tree. Okay, we don't want to get too close to it, simply because the further underneath that tree we get, one, the bigger mess it becomes in the pond. Okay, dropping all kinds of debris and leaves and God knows what into your pond. And also, we don't want to cut any major roots of that tree off because of two things. One, the roots are basically what enable the tree to absorb water up into the sap system of the tree and keep the tree alive. So if we cut off major roots, we are cutting off the supply of water to parts of that tree. And those parts of that tree could end up dying. So I have seen it where people have wanted to put a pond right next to a big, beautiful specimen tree, and they get too close and they cut off too much of the roots, and half of that tree ends up dying. The other thing is, the other point with that is, by cutting off all those roots, if you say this chair is a big tree, okay? If you want to bring that pond up real close to that tree, to the trunk of that tree, and you're cutting off all the roots here on this side to put your pond in, those roots are what keeps that tree stable in the ground during a storm, all right? If you cut off all the roots on this side of the tree, there's no stability on this side of the tree. If the wind then blows this way, that tree is going to go poof right down, because there is nothing on this side holding it, all right? So don't get too close to the trees. Typically, it's nice to have the trees to get a little bit of shade, but getting too close and cutting those roots can really damage the tree and affect its stability. So I like keeping that at least 15, 20 feet off of a tree. Okay, and depending on type of tree, there's different roots. Some trees have more surface roots, some trees are more of a tap root, so there's different structures. But anyway, basically, keep your pond away from large trees, so one, you don't damage the tree, and two, it keeps less debris from falling into the pond as well. All right, but otherwise, I think we've pretty much touched a bunch of topics here for you. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. And I thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, if it helped you out, please hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Take your time, look around, check out all my videos. I really appreciate the support. So thank you very much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you back again in another video. So take care. Have a great day. Bye.